I would first think that people just think about language. I don't think language is a barrier. Culture is the barrier. Silence from a sales guy in India would mean least interested. Silence in Europe would mean that he's giving you that time.
Is money more in international sales than in Indian sales?
Depends.
What's that one thing that people underestimate about the international market?
They underestimate stating it's a cakewalk, right? They think it's much more easier to sell. It's not. The answers only come over the weekend. Try it out. Send the person a mail on a Friday night or maybe on a Saturday on LinkedIn to a senior guy. 5 out of 10 times you will get a reply compared to a 1:10 because those guys are free at that point of time. Everyone keeps talking cold calling is dead, cold calling is dead, cold calling is dead. I can tell you 30% of my opportunities today come out of cold calling.
What does it take for somebody to become top 1% international sales professional? Do you want to start your career in international sales? Now, this question is something which has been asked time and again. And that's exactly the reason we have brought in a very special guest for you today. Mr. Dara, who has built his career in the world of international sales. During the podcast, we spoke about a lot of interesting things, like how does one start in the world of international sales? What is the difference between selling in the Indian context and in the EMEA region? What is the difference? Not just that, if you are someone who is getting started in the world of international sales, what are the few nuances that you must keep in mind? Something that I really enjoyed listening to was the struggles or the challenges that one faced when they moved from an individual contributor to a manager's role. A lot of insightful things have happened in this podcast, and that's the reason I want you to tune in right now and let's talk sales. If you are committed to becoming a top 1% sales professional, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on the notification. Now, let's talk sales.
This podcast is brought to you by Simply 5 Sales.
Welcome, Dara, to Let's Talk Sales podcast. Super excited to have you here.
Thank you, Sharat. Likewise, always good to be connected with people, always good to be connected with people like you who are doing really well in the industry and spreading the news of sales and how it could be taken to the next level. So obviously, happy to be here today.
Amazing. So, Dara, I want to dive in and actually ask you something which happened recently. We put out a podcast, and under that podcast, there was this girl who asked a question saying, how can I get into international sales? And I remember our conversation around international sales. How is it? And you have built your career in international sales. I have so many questions around that, Dara. And I want to know things like how can somebody start their career in international sales? Is money more in international sales than in Indian sales? Before I go and ask you about that, I want to know a little bit about you, your journey. You have done some significant work. I know about it. Let's talk to our viewers a little more and tell them how has your journey been? Where did you start?
I'm a hotel management graduate, right? Silver medalist from my college. Did hotel management, was all geared up to get into the cruise liners and so on. Got selected for Royal Caribbean Cruise Lines, but suddenly things didn't work out because of the political situation at that point of time. And that is where I landed up working for G or Jekis, right, under the customer service. And when I was there in the customer service, of course, today everyone is selling something or the other stuff. So when we were in ExxonMobil, while your core job was to help the customers, one of your KRAs was to upsell. And that is when I understood that every month on month, I was making more money because I was doing the upsells and I was good at sales. And that's how I thought, what, let me give it a try at Dell or HSBC. And that's when I did give an interview, got selected for Dell. And of course, it was the UK and the Irish process at that point of time because most of that was happening out of Hyderabad. Indian sales was all happening out of Bangalore. I was, of course, very nervous. As you very rightly said, people who want to get into international sales, they're pretty nervous people. How will it go? That fear is always there. I remember one of my managers or directors telling me a few years back that when there is a small bird who comes out of the egg, he's always very hesitant to fly. He's always within his nest or so on. It's the first time that his mother picks him up and throws him off. That is when he actually learns to fly. So I would say that is how it actually happens.
What was that moment of aha where you felt, nice, sales is for me? right? Sales is something where I want to build my career.
Why sales is because you write your own paycheck. That is what I tell to everyone. Whoever is interested in sales, I said that you write your own paycheck, because in most of the organization there's no capping, right? So you could as well as do a zero and not take any variable home because you've not put in that hard work or whatsoever, or you do some significant job, chase those deals, get those big deals in, and take a lot of money home, right? When I was at Dell again, Sharat, I would say that there were like 3, 4 parking slots of cars, and I could tell you more than 70% of the cars were all coming from sales guy, irrespective of the designation. So that is how, sales is all about how much more money can you take home. You write your own paychecks.
Amazing. Amazing. So money was a motivation to begin with, but
Yes.
I'm sure that there are a lot of other
Absolutely, yeah.
things that happen. But you had career transitions. Now, one of the career transition that most of us go through, like you rightly mentioned, you need a team to grow as well. So how did you navigate through that process where you're going from a individual contributor to a manager?
So of course, I think I was the hard work paid off. I became an IC to a manager at Dell in less than 3 years span, so which was really good for me. And once you get in there, of course, there were a lot of challenges. I will not deny that fact, right? Because you were a topmost sales guy, you get into a team, you get a team, and then you think that everyone is a mini me in the team. You think if I can work 12, 14 hours, if I can get those close rates, if I can get that revenue, why can't these guys not get it? But you got to understand that everyone is a different identity in their own. For someone, money is a motivator. For someone, recognition is a motivator. For someone, something else is a motivator. So one size fits all doesn't work. So definitely I had those challenges very honestly of looking at people like minimes, right? Ki, okay, I'm doing it, you got to do it. And that is where I kind of failed very honestly. And I think it was a stepping stone for me, because if that wouldn't have happened at the start of my career, I wouldn't have learned that the harder way.
So how did you do that, Dara? I'm very interested because a lot of people out there. In fact, in stats, if I have to believe, 40% of the new managers, when they are given that role, they do not know much. They are good at contributing as an individual contributor, but 40% of them are never trained. They are just pushed into the ocean and told figure out. So how did you do that, right? How did you become a good manager, if I have to say that, right? Did you learn those nuances of being a manager? And how did you navigate through that entire process?
Absolutely. So once these things happened, wherein I was not looked up as a good manager, because as I said, I would always look at minimes, and numbers was the only motivator for me at that point of time. Started transitioning. I saw the leaders that I would look up to, and I always saw those leaders were all not number driven only. They were number driven, yes, but there was a people factor that was coming in. There was something like, what can we do for this person? How do you get into the comfort zone of people, and so on? And that is what I started working towards it. I read a few books, but one of the good books that always comes to my mind is What Got You Here Won't Get You There, right? I'm not too sure if people have read that book, but I think everyone should read that book. Once readily available everywhere, you should read that book. It is going to change your mindset completely, because what you are now, maybe you go one notch higher, it's not going to work for you. You need to learn a completely new skill set. So I started looking up to these mentors of mine, saying, what are they doing differently? Started shadowing with them, started spending some time with them, putting myself into their shoes, putting themselves into my shoes, sometimes understanding ki, what would they do in such a situation, right? I think that really helped, because I became a manager about 24, 25 years of age, which is pretty young, right? And I thought this was a good time for me to understand, speak to people, read those books, go through some of the podcast of some great sales leaders at that point of time, and understand a lot of things. And I think I started putting people first, then the numbers. So today I always put people first, because people are the ones who are going to get you revenues and not vice versa.
So what would that one thing your team would say about you? Give me that one word.
Caring leader.
Amazing, amazing. So so from an individual contributor to a caring leader, and then you had a huge shift happening in your career. You moved out from Dell, which was a great, well-established brand.
Yeah.
And how was that transition like?
So I worked with Dell for a little short of 14 years.
Wow.
And in 2019 May, I think that's when we were expecting our second baby. And my wife was going on a mat leave for 6 months. And I thought this would be a good time for me to take a pause, take a break from my career, and spend some good quality time with my kid and my wife. Of course, we were not able to do that with my first child, and that was always a guilt that was with us. And there have been certain situations that, of course, I can talk to it in a minute, that were not very good enough for me, because every time it has always been pushed on to the women to take care of the kid and not the male. I don't know why does that happen, but I thought this would be a good time for me to step back, take some time off, spend some time with my family, welcome the new baby. We welcomed a new baby. We moved into a new house. This all happened, left the job. This all happened within a span of 1.5 months. And then we spent like 3, 4 months. When I was open to go back to the market, I saw that maybe hardware market was not the right place for me to be there. It was the SaaS that was evolving. And that is where I started looking at that shift. So this didn't happen overnight. So it took good 5, 6 months, and there were a lot of failures again, Sharat, right? Because you are a leader, you go into the market, you think you're going to be a leader in SaaS. No, you need to unlearn certain things, you need to learn certain things. And I was outright rejected for a lot of designation. I was thinking, I worked for Dell. I was a regional sales manager, managing 120 folks, delivering $85 million revenue. How is that possible that I'm not getting a job? And then I understood that I need to keep my ego aside and start working on myself. And as they say in Hindi, right? जब शेर एक कदम पीछे लेता है तो बड़ी छलांग के लिए मारता है.
Correct.
Similarly, if you have a bow and arrow, you have to pull the bow towards you for it to go that extra distance.
Correct.
And that is what exactly I did. I started investing a lot of time on myself. I did a few more courses on SaaS, understood the SaaS world, spoke to people who are there in SaaS, understood those terminologies, those daily languages that they speak about: ARR, MRR, ACV, NRR, and so on. Got some more certifications done. And that is where there was a point of time that I had 3 offer letters in my hand, with 3 good big companies. And I chose to go ahead with one and start off as a enterprise sales manager. So from a guy who was leading 120 folks with a $85 million revenue, starts with again a manager role. But as I always say, you sometimes need to take a step back to make a much more bigger leap.
Amazing, amazing. So what I hear from you, Dara, consistently is learning. Your hunger to learn consistently, whether you were at a moment where you were moving from an IC to a manager, you invested in learning.
Yeah.
When you moved industries, you continue to learn, you continue to invest in the very important element of learning, which I think a lot of sales folks don't understand. Not just the sales folks, I think a lot of people don't understand the significance of learning. So going back to that moment, and I'm very curious, you brought this point of guilt. I think as a society, we talk a lot about women feeling the guilt of a lot of things.
Yeah.
But men guilt is something that I know, and I think you also know how we go through it. As a society, we have been called as the breadwinners, right? So talk me through that experience of yours, because I think a lot of viewers need to understand that men also have guilt and it's okay to take a career break.
So that's the culture difference, Sharat. If you were in Europe, no one would ask that question. But because you're in India, you're a breadwinner. People look up to you differently. Because I worked with a lot of colleagues in Europe, I used to interact with them daily. And when I told them this, they were like super duper happy. While the people in India were like, how will you do it? Right? So that's the culture difference that comes into play. And at the end of the day, I am only answerable to my immediate family. I'm not answerable to the society. The society is not going to pay my bill. The society is not going to help me out when I need it. It's the family. And if my family is behind me, my parents, my wife are behind me, then I don't think I need to think about it so much. And I think sometimes those bold moves help me where I am today, right? As I said, if I would have continued in the same, maybe I wouldn't have reached at a level that I am at. Let that be in the status, let that be in terms of the compensation, let that be in terms of skill set that I have today.
Correct.
Right? So sometimes it's okay, right? And in India, it's still not catching up, right? There's so many people who would not talk about layoffs. But if you look at people in Europe or US, they will definitely talk about layoffs. They'll be very honest about it. They'll be very open about it and so on. So I think it's the culture difference that plays a role. And it's fine if you want to take a break, because life is not a race. Life is absolutely not a race, right? You got to take a moment back. And COVID has taught all of us this. Before COVID, everyone was in a rat race. I think after COVID, you look at millennials today.
Mm.
Oh my God. Sorry, the Gen Z. Sorry, my bad.
Gen Zs,
Millennial
yeah.
is me.
Millennials as us.
Gen Zs, right? Gen Zs would not. I can tell you, Sharat, during my Dell days, Friday night, you give a number, you give the number, somehow doesn't happen. You would still have to stay back, make those calls, get those numbers done. Do you think that Gen Zs will do that today? Oh, no. They're just going to walk off. And I think we got to learn a lot from Gen Zs also.
Got it.
I have a lot of Gen Zs who roll into me directly, indirectly today, and I learn from them every day how they live their life. They're not in that rat race. They're just not running behind money. They're just not running behind designation. They know exactly how to live a life.
Got it. Got it. So anybody who's going through that transition and has that guilt as a man, what would your one advice be?
Make sure that you have some backup in place. When I say backup in place, not like a backup job, but you have good amount of savings or your emergency fund that you say, right? So that it should be able to take care of it.
Got it.
Right. And do not, I know in most of the organizations, when you're taking a step back or taking that pause, try to take you at a lesser salary, try to take you at a lower grade and so on. Don't be open to it.
Mm-hmm.
I would say don't be open to it.
Got it.
I know most of them would not like me saying that, but I don't think we should be able to anyone manipulate us just because we're taking a break.
Got it. Got it. So career breaks are okay, and we should not take that as a disadvantage.
Absolutely.
Rather, I mean, we have had significant experience, so we should count on that than anything else.
Absolutely.
Right.
And you obviously need that break to reinvest in yourself, because if you're working every day, you're just talking numbers, you're just talking that same product, you're just talking about that same industry and all. But when you take a break, that is when you start looking at a different perspective altogether.
Got
You're just not spending quality time with your family, with your kids and all. You're also spending quality time on investing on yourself. You're learning what's happening new in the market. You're understanding what's happening this in the market, what's happening there. You're polishing yourself. You're sharpening your skills.
So what I'm really loving about this entire conversation, Dara, is, you spoke about learning, which is extremely important. You also spoke about time for self, which is extremely important. The other thing that I really loved about the entire, your personal journey is valuing what is most important to you, which is the family, and not really getting carried away with the distractions of the world, not having that FOMO of what my cousins would say, or my colleagues would say in one of the jobs that I shared with them, right? And really be extremely focused on what you value the most.
Got it.
Right? Love that, Dara. Let's transition into a little bit of the thing that I really want to talk about, international sales, right? So let's start with the fundamentals. If somebody is wanting to move into the international sales at any point in their career, maybe they have had Indian sales experience for some time. Now they want to move into an international sales. To move into international sales, where do they start?
I would first think that people just think about language. I don't think language is a barrier. Culture is the barrier. You got to understand what is the culture, what works for Indian mentality clients, what works for US, what works for Europe is absolutely different. So you got to understand the culture. Like for an example, silence from a sales guy in India would mean least interested. Silence in Europe would mean that he's giving you that time. So you got to understand the mindset of the customer. You got to, so it is not about changing the country, it is changing the culture, how you think about people. And I see a lot of people, I've interviewed a lot of people who come from banking segment, who come from other segments and want to move into SaaS. And they're been doing the Indian banking and want to move in there. But they're all at a manager, senior manager level. But as I said sometime back, it's okay to take a step back. I have taken a step back. There's so many people I've seen that have taken a step back to start learning. It's important to get into the ecosystem. You get into the SaaS ecosystem, and then you see how you start building your career over it. You start multiplying your salary, you start multiplying your positions over a period of time. Rather than saying, okay, I was a director here, I want to move into the SaaS world as a director. You can, I'm not saying no. But then the chances are very low. So rather than that, start building onto it, right? Today, if you look at a SaaS world, right? Maybe I'm a VP today or an AVP today, but your fundamentals should not die. You should always be happy to get on a call, speak to a client, share that lighter moment with your people, understand what are they struggling with, and saying, don't be a dashboard manager. I see a lot of people just being a dashboard manager today. You just take numbers, throw it, and you just throw the numbers for what? Everyone can see the numbers there, right? A can see the number, a manager can see the number. You again showing those numbers to them is not going to make any sense. But walk up to them and say, how could you make those transitions happen? So I think people who wanted to move into SaaS, absolutely possible. It's not rocket science. You just got to make sure that you have a mentor in place for you, right? It's okay to take a step back, have a mentor in place, speak to him on a weekly basis, understand what's happening in the SaaS world. So when you go for an interview, while the interviewer knows that you're not from a SaaS background, but you portray it in such a way that you have done your homework and you definitely deserve that one chance.
Why are people driven towards international sales? And I'm very curious about this, Dara. Is the money more? Is that the trigger point for a lot of people? Like I said, one of the comments that came under our podcast was, I want to move into international sales. Two questions there. Let me break it down. First question, is the money more? Yes, no.
Depends. I would not say a yes or a no. It again depends on a lot of factors. I think why most of the people want to move into international sales, with all the conversation that I have, with all the interviews that I have, when I deep dive a little, these young sales folks look out for travel. That becomes like a big motivator for them. I've seen a lot of people and when you ask them any questions or when you deep dive why does that, the first thing or the second thing, topmost thing comes about travel. Because these people want to travel to Europe, these guys want to travel to US, speak to a lot of clients, and definitely want to feel good about working for an organization who's built out the base in US or UK or so on. So I think it's the travel that triggers most of the young people, at least that's what I've seen. Money wise, yes, I would not deny. If you start looking at all the three markets, I think US makes the most. The people that work in the US, this thing, I think they make the most of the money. I'm putting it generic, not to any particular organization. I think second moves to the Europe, EMEA, and the third being the APAC. It is just the maturity of the market. US market is far more bigger, moves at a very fast pace. They take technology very seriously. Then it's the Europe, and then it's the APAC region.
Got it.
So that's how, when your quotas are there, if you're able to sell more, you definitely earn more money. So yes, international sales, I think, has more money compared to the
And the
India sales.
advantage is travel as well.
Absolutely.
Right? That's amazing. So tell me this: if somebody is highly successful in an Indian market, they have achieved their quota. In fact, they have 2x their quota. Will they be successful in an international market? Is it safe to assume that?
No, I would not say it is safe to assume that if he's done well there, he would be able to do well here. Could be yes, could be a no. Because as I said, right, it's about learning the culture. It's not about nothing to do with the product, because the product that you're selling in Indian market, the product that you're selling in EU or the US market is all going to be the same. So it's all about, do you understand the pain point? Do you understand their culture? Do you understand how good do I go ahead and put that product across to them? Right? It works very differently. Let's just give an example. In India, it is more about if someone is not chasing you, which means that the deal is gone on the back burner or the sales guy is not interested. If he does the same in the EU, they would think, the sales guy understands, he's giving us that time to think over it.
Got it. Okay.
Right? Europeans do not like pushy sales. Right? While Indians are more about asking every day, ki, what's the update? How is it going to happen? What's happening there? What's happening here? And so on. Indian market is again driven too much by relationships.
Correct.
While EU market is more driven with, looking at the product, understanding the product, whether the product makes its fit or not. Indian is more relationship based. Let's be very honest about it, right? Because you see a lot of companies buying certain products just because of the good relationship they have with that companies. I don't deny that doesn't happen in Europe. It happens in Europe also. But more than that, it is about proof of concept. They want to understand whether this does the job for them or not. They do not like pushy sales. Very honestly, Europeans do not like pushy sales.
Lovely. Give me a little more differences. Like, show me a couple of more differences that happen across, because you have sold in EMEA, Europe, Middle East, and African region versus Indian region. Give me a couple of more differences. Once you said culture. What else?
So one is the culture. Second is the economy. right? Let's look at Europe itself, right? The way UK is booming, you can't say Portugal is booming at the same this thing. Again, the difference is between what's booming in that particular region. Like Indian market is doing really well right now. You see a lot of startups coming up. You see a lot of if you see this, so if you look at last 1 year, you will see so many companies, international companies investing in India. They're coming up there, the offices in India, because they do understand there is a lot of growth opportunities for that product in Indian market. But you got to understand relationships one, you got to understand the culture, and you got to understand in India, the cycle is much more longer, right? The cycles are much more longer. People love to meet you face to face. In Europe also, yes, but not so much. In India, it is more about this face to face conversation. In India, it's more about what's in it for me and so on.
Hmm. Got it. Got it. Brilliant. So I think anybody who's getting started, first thing is the cultural nuances and not underestimating their own ability, because sometimes, in fact, I had this in my mind that how does the language, because we speak great English,
Yes.
certainly, but sometimes that, if I have to go back to my experience, Dara, when I was working in corporates, every time a Firang would come into our visit, I would really feel a little uncomfortable. Though I was an exceptional performer, but I would feel very uncomfortable speaking up in front of them. So I think that is something that I'm taking back. And I'm sure now the viewers will also understand that we are good, we are capable, and we need to really be going out and playing the
I'll
game.
give you a very good example. I was doing my hotel management, and during that time, during the third year, you were sent to a hotel to work for 6 months as a management trainee. So I was given an opportunity to work for Taj Krishna, a 16-year-old boy going to Taj Krishna. And of course, there are a lot of Ferangs there, as you said, the foreigners there. And at that point around, there were not so many, at least in India, they were all going to five-star hotels and all. And as a small guy, you would always be shy off. And, then one day, one of the guys says, "Why don't you serve tea to the lady there?" And I was super, super scared, right? So when I hold the tray in my hand, the cup, the saucer, and the spoon were making a rattling sound. You can imagine, right? Once your hand shivers. I can tell you that was my first experience. And when I was going near, it started shivering more. There was a lady sitting out there, a foreigner sitting out there. I think she was a Brit or American, I don't know. And she said, "Kiddo." And I said, "Yes, ma'am." She said, "Pour the tea." And I was like shit scared about it. And she said, "Let it fall on me. I will take the blame." That is the kind of support that you need today from your manager.
Amazing.
I think if that lady wouldn't have told me that, I would have. And when she told me that, it gave me immense confidence. Pour the tea, and trust me, all the time she was there and all the time I was a management trainee there, I would make sure that I'm only serving her the coffee or the tea every day.
Amazing.
That kind of gave me that confidence. You need that person who is standing right behind you, is giving you that confidence. Keep go, let's do it. Nothing's going to happen. And that is where you need a very, very strong manager behind you at your job also, right? When you're feeling underconfident, when you're feeling ki ye main kar sakta hu ya nahi, and someone saying you do it, I am there. Exactly, that's what we do today when new guys get on calls. They're very scared. They know the product, they speak good English, but it's like always that first thing. And then I tell them, go on the call. I am there on the call. If you make a fuck up, sorry for my language, I am there. I will manage it out for you.
Got it.
And that gives them a lot of confidence, rather than some manager coming saying, make sure this is your first call, the call goes well, I want to see you as a good call. Now look at the guy is doubled tensed now,
Correct.
rather than having a sub. So a leader plays a very, very important role.
100%, 100% there. So I think that that comfort and the culture that the manager builds has a huge difference in the way somebody plays out in their roles, right? Brilliant. One more question before I transition into understanding international sales, the entire playbook, right? Because you've been there. I want to ask about that. But before that, what's that one thing that people underestimate about the international market?
They underestimate stating it's a cakewalk.
Explain that more.
They think it is much more easier to sell, right? They think it's much more easier to sell. It's not, right? Because international sales or Europe sales itself, right? The way I just said, the way UK behaves, Germany doesn't behave the same way. There are different nuances that come into play. There are no new laws that come into play. They are different ways of you work, right? Let's assume that you cracked a deal of a big company in Germany. you want to crack that same deal in UK, it's not going to be a cakewalk for you because that complete entity works as a whole different entity altogether. You got to sow your seeds again, have a different strategy in place, and it's all strategy. I know most of the sales guy think, okay, let me do 15 calls, 20 mails, and I'll get the deal. No, it is the strategy that goes behind the play. So people definitely say, okay, ho jayega. It's not going to happen. There is immense competition in the market today for any product.
Got it. Got it, Dara. I'm loving the conversation. Let's go into the core element of the entire conversation. Let's say if you're enjoying this podcast, I want you to pause now, click on the subscribe button, and let's enjoy talking about sales. Now somebody gets a job and they are doing pretty well. They are super motivated. Now they want to build a clear cut playbook, right? A outbound playbook for an international market. Walk me through the entire playbook step by step. I want to start off with the fundamentals. What would those fundamentals be?
The fundamentals would be, do not go after all the markets. You got to choose the markets that you want to go after. If I was someone, I would choose the markets like a UK, a Germany, a Benelux Nordics region, because these are the low hanging fruits. These are countries which are fast. They would adapt to a new tool much more faster. They understand it and so on. So it's important that you pick up those 3-4 markets and understand in those 3-4 markets which are the verticals that works very well, right? If I have to sell into the German market, I would think about automobile. I will think about finance. I will never go after tourism, right? Similarly, if I go after Spain, I will think about aviation. I will think about tourism and so on. So you got to be very choosy about which markets you want to go after. What verticals do you want to choose? Because wrong market, wrong vertical can fall flat on the face.
Got it.
And then you start making a complete playbook around it. You know which are the countries, you know what are the industries. Now you start looking out for the pain points in those industries where your product fits in well. Because you don't want to give a call to someone and say, I am calling from ABC, I'm selling ABC. He'll say, thank you so much, have a good day. But then if you understand that particular industry, you understand that particular market and what is the pain point of that person, you'll be able to resonate. So creating a playbook also means that you understand the pain point of that vertical, the pain point in that particular country or region also. And basis that, then you start drafting things below it.
Got it. So start with a region
Yes.
and a pain that your product is solving. So that's going to be my number one step.
Absolutely.
And then now I reach out to my potential prospects.
Yes.
And the thing that I have been hearing today and from a couple of years is personalization, right?
Absolutely.
Your reach has to be completely personalized. And specifically when we are working out of India and reaching out to other countries, I think personalization is extremely important, whether we are in India or in other countries.
Absolutely.
But we've been hearing about that. Tell me an example of a bad personalization and a good personalization.
Okay. Bad personalization would be Sharat and Dara both working as directors in the similar company in sales, and the mail hits both of us at the same time with same generic. A super good personalized mail would mean while Sharad and Dara both do the similar job in a similar company, but both are two different identities. Both of them come from a different background or whatsoever. And the mail that I send Sharad, I can't send it to Dara. That is like a good personalization mail for me.
Correct. I think personalization is also about contextualization of the email or the call or any of the outreach that we are doing, right? So I have seen that same email is being sent to same, different people. Sometimes even the personalization, the first name is seen, right? That's a tragedy in itself. But how deep should the personalization be? How much time SDR on a AE or anybody who is doing that outreach should spend on customizing the outreach?
See, as I said, quality over quantity, which means that I would tell my SDRs, no offense to any lower people, but always reach out to people above a director level because they have the power to say a yes. They have the authority to sign it off. I've seen most of the cases where the A's start working with people at a manager level or a junior level, And when the VP or the signing authority, when you ask for a call, they said, we're not interested. So all this time has got wasted. You could have used that same potential time speaking to more customers and so on. So it's
Correct.
important that you reach out to these people. And when you reach out to these people, they hardly have 10 to 15 seconds to look at your mail. And you got
Correct.
to make that impact in that 15 seconds, which means that you go through their LinkedIn profile. You look at what's happened, when did they join, and so on. You look at what are the companies doing, right?
Mhm.
In case you see a new post that the company's got some new funding or the company's done this, congratulate them about it, and so on. And I've seen these kind of mails get you far more better reply rates rather than just a generic one. Okay, I'm calling from ABC. I have helped ABCDEF company, which is your competitor. Boom, nothing's going to work out, right? There needs to be that connection that is happening.
My concern here, Dara, would be that a lot of times we say that personalization, you research about the customer, you research about the prospect, go through their LinkedIn. My concern here is how much time, because at the end of the day, a lot of the managers or the senior leaders question that SDR on an AE that hey, what is the volume, what is the outreach that you've done, and that's where I think we kind of hold back from doing the research. We focus more on numbers than the quality. And I'm of a firm believer of what you just said. Send 10 emails, get more responses than sending 100 emails with no response.
Exactly.
Right? So how much time, and is there a scale? Is there a kind of a deciding factor that you would count on?
So I wouldn't say there is. What matters is if the person is able to give a good answer to his or her manager that why his or her activity is low. And today, with so many tools in place, right? Everyone can hear the calls, everyone can go through the mails, right? And when you start looking at those mails, you can, as a manager, see, you're two types of manager. There's one manager who's a dashboard manager, as I said. The
I love
dashboard
that.
manager will say, okay, did you do 100 calls or not? Period.
Correct.
There's another manager who will say, wow, you sent 30 mails. These mails are amazing,
Hmm.
right? This is the kind of work that needs to be done. So I said things are transitioning,
Hmm.
right? And today you have so many tools to look at so much of information that is there.
Correct.
So for me, it is more about what is the outcome. The outcome
Hmm.
is opportunities. The outcome is not activity levels.
Correct.
The SDR is not getting paid on his activity levels. The SDR is getting paid for how many opportunities did he generate.
Correct.
So let's look at the final number. But of course, when you have these tools and when you go to a person and says you only send 5 mails a day, super hyper personalized, I see that absolutely. But sending 5 mails is also underutilization or not performing at the full optimum level. So
Right.
then you definitely go back to that person and say, you know what, you've sent this 5 mails, those are great, but these are not going to give you the results.
Hmm.
Because if you send 100 mails, let's assume you get 5 opportunities. So if you're going to send only 10, which means you're just going to get one opportunity. So double down on this, but
Correct.
without compromising on the quality.
Correct.
So maybe
Correct.
10 might be too low, maybe 100 in a day might be too high.
Right.
So maybe a
So
good
what's a
number.
safe bet like?
If you're hyper personalizing it, very honestly, Sharat, I think should be around 30 in a day.
13 a day. Right.
But of
Brilliant.
course, you will do a lot of other work also, right?
100% yes.
Calling is happening.
Correct.
You are speaking to the customers who have given you time and so on. So I think 30 is a safe bet
Safe bet.
bet to
Right.
be on. But I would not heavily just bog down on activities. I've seen people leaving jobs also, very honestly, because they've just been said ki do 100 calls.
Correct. Correct.
And there's
Correct.
so many times you don't have the right number. At least in India, you have the right number. In Europe, there is GDPR. There are no right numbers. People get pissed off when you call them. They are in a meeting. You disconnect, and the SDR is under so much of pressure to make those 100 calls.
Correct. Correct.
So that he's just redialing without even looking at the time. He doesn't even know that it's 6 p.m. there. He doesn't even know it's 8 a.m. in the morning there. People are not in the office. They're traveling to work. You're just
Hmm.
pissing them off.
Right. And especially now that you said that we have to reach out to the senior leaders only, they are all the more busier.
Yeah.
Right. And now if somebody has a dashboard manager, the guy is in stress and there is so much more that is happening. So I think 30, 25, 30 is a safe bet. Hyper personalized,
Yes.
reach out to the senior leaders. That's going to be one of the uh, part of the the playbook that we built. Great. And now that we are reaching out, it's not just the email, it's not just the cold call, but there's LinkedIn. There is so much more that is happening currently with the kind of tools that we have, like you mentioned. So what are kind of those touch points? How many times? Because people say a fortune is in the follow up,
Yes.
right? So how should the touch points be?
So today, if you look at some of the numbers, it says that there needs to be 18 touch points to get a opportunity. Of course, for some people, it would be just on the first call. For some, it would be on the 30th one. So averaging it out to 18. So the follow-ups are absolutely important because there'll be certain times that, like I always say, if you're say reaching out to a C-level people, I've always seen when I reach out to a C-level people, the answers only come over the weekend because they are free over the weekend. Try it out. To all those people who are listening, try it out. Send the person a mail on a Friday night or maybe on a Saturday on LinkedIn to a senior guy. 5 out of 10 times you will get a reply compared to a 1 is to 10 because those guys are free at that point of time. And maybe you're sending him mails during a Monday, Tuesday. He's in a meeting. He gets a LinkedIn message. He looks at his phone, tick, gone. He'll think he'll look at it later. But does he really look at it later? No.
Correct.
He's not going to look at it. Similarly, we follow something called as golden calling hours, right? So you only call customers during those times rather than calling them whenever you want, because we know that this point of time, your customers are more often about to pick up the phone. So you do not do your cold calls on Monday. You do not do your cold calls on Friday second half because those are the times where you will not find people. Mondays, everyone is busy with the meetings, everyone is busy with the dashboards, everyone is busy looking at how the week is going to look like. Friday, second half, I can tell you everyone is in a party mode in Europe, right? So the best time is Tuesday, second half, Wednesday in the after the morning hours, and in the afternoon, similarly is on Thursday. So we follow these good timelines and it's given us results. And very honestly, Sharat, everyone keeps talking cold calling is dead, cold calling is dead, cold calling is dead. I can tell you 30% of my opportunities today come out of cold calling.
100%, yeah.
So cold calling is not
Never
absolutely
dead.
dead,
Yeah.
right? In fact, your mails could go into spam sometimes. In fact, your mails might not reach out to the right person. There's so many people when you reach out to a C-level in enterprise company, he's not even looking at his mails. His secretary is looking at the mails.
Correct. In fact, I would say cold calling is not dead. Bad cold calling was dead always.
Yes, absolutely.
Right? And that's what is happening. And then people perceive that cold calling is dead, but bad cold calling was always dead.
Absolutely.
Right? What I'm taking back from this insight, I never knew that, reaching out on a Friday will be a great, great productivity kind of a approach for any SDR. I'll probably try it in my team as well. I'd probably send out an email on a Friday evening because that gets more responses.
So look at all these C-level people. When do they do interviews? They do it at the start of the day or they do it at the end of the day because that's the only free time that they have. And I'm not saying that interviews are not important to them, but because there are series of meetings that are there, and usually they do the team catch-ups also at the end of the day or the start of the day because that's the only time that they have.
Got it.
I'm talking about your CEOs or the CROs and so on.
Got it, Dara. So now when we are reaching out, you said cold call, cold email, LinkedIn. Give me a channel split of how we should be reaching out. Or are there any ways that you kind of identified in your journey which worked more than the other?
So I think you should do all three of them on day one, very honestly, so that there is a repetitive happening, right? So you send in a LinkedIn request, you give it a few hours, you send in a mail, you give it a few hours, and then you call, and then you say, hey, so that you have 3 touch points within the single day. And then maybe give it a couple of days and then start the sequence again. Of course, the LinkedIn request is gone, so you can't send it again. Maybe you can use it as a LinkedIn in mail that is there, and then the mail and then the call. I think that obviously works because when you call up repetitively, it kind of happens. And I think most of the time, Sharat, what happens is you call a number, you call Sharat, and Sharat doesn't pick up today. You call Sharat tomorrow, doesn't pick up tomorrow. You call Sharat the third day and he picks up and you're blank. And you're absolutely blank. Oh, Sharat has picked up the phone. Then you say, hey, I'm calling from ABC, blah, blah, and then you've completely lost the plot.
Yeah.
Because you've reached out to that person. The person has picked up the phone and you are not able to deliver that message to him. So you got to make sure that you are always ready that he's going to pick up the phone.
Correct.
Right? It could be the last day of the call for you, but it is the first call for that person from your company.
Correct.
So you should always be sounding very energetic. You should always be sounding that you've done your homework right.
So that are one of the other things that I notice a lot of times. We do this cold outreach on LinkedIn. Sometimes we send emails. Sometimes we do cold calling. However, there are better ways, especially when we have to reach out to the senior leaders. And they are the decision makers, like you rightly mentioned. So are there other ways that we can kind of experiment?
Yes. So, a couple of ways, right? Sharat, one is tailgating. When I say tailgating, it's not about getting into their comfort zone, but with a strategy, right? These guys definitely go to a lot of events. These guys definitely are speakers in a lot of events. So try seeing that where are they going? What relevance does it make? See that if you can be a part of that. And when you meet them, you don't go and say that you're from ABC company trying to sell. Absolutely no, right? You kind of build a rapport because these deals, when you're talking to a CMO of a company which is X billion dollars, right? Yeah, which is going to give you a revenue of 500,000 or 300K, 400K dollars, right? You're not going to talk to them like that. So you start building that rapport over a period of time, and that is when you get into their comfort zone.
Got it.
And that is you. Then you take it to the next level. So the guy who would not even reply to your mail, the guy who would not even pick up the phone, or you don't have the phone number from there, to a guy who's maybe sitting and having a coffee or a drink with you in a few months or so on. That is one method. The second method that works the best is the partnership model. Everyone doesn't understand the partnership model. The partners can really work wonders for you, especially in the international or the European sales. Let's be honest that you're sitting out in India, right? You can't travel every week, every month to the region and meet them and so on. And partners know the ecosystem very well. The partners have worked with them or working with them on a different project and so on. So us telling good about our product is a tick in the box, but someone else telling good about your product is great. Second, third thing that you look at it is who's the mutual connect between the person that you want to reach out and to the person that you are looking at. And if there is any mutual connect that is there, maybe two people of senior level and you know this person because you're working with him or her, you can tell him or her, why don't you introduce me to him? And if you have a good rapport with your client, they would definitely do that. And imagine someone else talking about your product to him, stating, hey, I'm using it. This is great. You can speak to ABC. They're great. It will do wonders to you.
Correct.
And I've seen a lot of cases wherein we were able to crack those big deals by doing all this stuff.
Got it. Got it. Walk me through one of those deals where you were at a networking event and what happened. What did you do differently, which probably others did not?
We were working with one big company. I don't want to name them, of course, because of some of the nuances that are there. This was happening in London. And there was a event that was happening in London. And I knew that this guy was traveling to London for that event. And it was a very big deal and so on. And this guy was never coming on the call. We were talking to people, all people below him and so on. That is when I reached out to my boss and said, you know what, we should maybe do this event. And then, of course, I had to give my case study and so on. We went ahead with that event with a small booth and all. We did that. I sent him an invite for that event also, alongside with the people that were working under him. As per, I don't know that he's also coming in. So this guy said, ki, hey, our boss is coming in. Would you throw in free passes for us? I said, fantastic, that would be great. We threw in free passes. When you throw free passes for them, they're obliged to come and meet you at the event for sure. And when they're coming and meeting you, you're definitely opening up that box and saying, hey, you know what? XYZ is there. Can we meet him? And then, of course, he comes and meets. We started having that conversation. He understood that, he was looking at our product, but the others' product was much more better because there was an international brand, bigger brand, and bigger brands are always more inclined towards a bigger name.
Correct.
Very honestly. And he looked at that. We spoke about it. And from the guy who was not even responding to the mail, in next a month and a half, we went ahead and signed the deal also with them.
Amazing.
Similarly, have another example, Sharat, was partnership. As I said, partnership. Big French company, multinational big company. These companies have nuances that the procurement team needs minimum 3 quotes before they select one. So in their minds, they made up their mind which one they want to go with.
Got it.
And the other 2 quotes was a tick in the box.
Got it.
So they came to us, they did the demo, all, and I was really fascinated because such a huge brand came in. And I asked that person, I asked the, hey, what happened? He said, blah, blah, blah. They took a demo and all, and they're not coming back. We wrote them mails, we tried reaching out to them. Absolutely no, this thing. And I understood that maybe they made up their mind. It was just a code, this thing. Then I started researching more about it and understood that they work with one partner in France, which we work very closely with.
Got it. Okay.
So I reached out to the partner in France and said, blah, 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 do you work with them? He said, we work with them, but not on this project. Said, can you put it across a word for us or try to understand whether they're looking for this one and so on? He said, yeah, let me go ahead and do that. He went in there, he spoke to them. He said, yeah, they're looking into it, but they're more inclined towards the other vendor, as you very rightly thought. I said, why don't you ask them to come and speak to us or at least put in good word for our company?
Got it.
He said, fantastic, I'll go ahead and do that. He went ahead and did that. And because it was coming via partner, not via us, they definitely thought they got a little more impressed because the product was always very impressive. And then the conversation started happening. And sometime back, again, I was traveling to Europe. So I told this lady, hey, I am in Europe. I'm in Paris. Though I was not going in Paris, but I was in Europe. Why don't we catch up for lunch? And she replied in a day saying, yeah, Dara, we can catch up for lunch on this day. I booked my flight from there to Paris, flew to Paris, had lunch with her. We strengthened the relationship more. She put across our name to her counterparts in US, and we are almost on the verge of closing the deal now.
Amazing, amazing, Dara. So anybody who's actually starting off in the international space or has built decent amount of experience, right? How should they implement this strategy of tailgating? What are the 3 things that they must do?
One, they should understand that that's the problem area for them. Right? They should understand that's the problem area. One, they should understand if that person is the decision maker, that person is the signing authority, and so on. And then start liking his post, start responding to his post, right? Doing something or the other so that maybe he's not responding to you, but you are not stopping by not doing the same. Most of the cases, Sharat, what works is moving up the ladder. A VP will always reply to a VP. A C level will always reply to a C level. That is bound to happen.
Correct.
Right? So it's important that you know that this guy is a VP and you are an A. You are not able to do that. He's not responding. Get your VP involved into it. You tell your VP, you know what, this is a deal that is going big. This size is the deal. This is the decision maker. He's not been able to answer to me. Would you be able to send a mail? A mail going for VP, I can tell you 8 or 10 times the chances are very high that he will respond to him rather than an A.
Got it.
Similarly, we see so many times when you invite someone for a lunch or a dinner, right? And a mail going from A to a C level, most of the time gets bogged down, but someone at a C level to a C level, 9 out of 10 times there is a yes. Your C level is coming, great, I would come.
Got it. So get your seniors involved. Get the
100%.
VPs and the C-suite involved in the entire
Not all
conversation.
deals, but the deals which
are
impactful,
correct,
which could swing either which ways.
Got it. Fantastic. So any AE or a SDR listening, they should actually start involving their senior leaders.
100%.
That's one extremely important thing. I think AEs don't go up and speak with the management thinking that they want to close the deal.
100%. I 100%. I seen so many times, and I always tell them at the end you are only the hero, right? The manager or whoever is going to play just a cameo for you. At the end of the day, you're going to be the lead star, right? The other person is just going to be a cameo, and if the deal is coming in your favor, fantastic. It's a win-win for all of us. And in today's world, no one wants a manager just to send numbers, just to sit and talk, but they want their hands to get dirty.
Correct.
That is when a lot of experience come out of play. That is when the A's also learn so much from the managers because manager has gone through that stage. He's been successful in that stage and he understands what are the things that he or she did that takes him there today.
Got it.
Compared to an AE who just has like 6-7 years, compared to a manager or senior manager who's done that for 15-20 years, far more experienced.
Correct. Got it. So Dara, do you think that, at a AE SDR level, there are roles that are different? Like, there are KRAs which are slightly different. Certainly. But do you think at a senior level as well, the people watching must understand that at a senior level as well, they should cold call. They should do cold outreach. Should they do it? Should they not? Or should they only focus on, the attending events or things like that? What's your view on that?
I see, again, it depends about what kind of cold outreach are you doing, Let's take an example. I see that ABC company has got Seed D or CD, which is huge funds. Would I go to them and say, this is my product? No. I would go as a C-level person, congratulate them for this thing. That is how you break into you get into their comfort zone. You start talking about it, great that you've got this funding, blah, 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 and start building up onto it.
Got
You
it.
do not want a VP or a C-level going and telling, what, this is my product, buy my product, right? Look at those instances. One could be once they get funding. Second, when they're hiring for a particular role or so on, right? When they hire, some company hires a CRO, it immediately says that the sales team is growing. If
Right.
someone hires a CTO, which means definitely a lot of development is happening from the technical
Technical side,
perspective.
yeah.
So you got to read all these things, right? A smart sales guy is always going to read all these things. And all these things are publicly available today through
Correct.
so many mediums.
Correct. Correct. But they should get their hands dirty. They
They should
cannot sit
definitely.
back because I met somebody. I'm saying this because Dara, I had a conversation with someone who said, I don't want to do cold calling. I mean, I'm now the VP of sales and all that. I should not be doing that. My role is no more defined there. I only go there to sign the deals and things like that. I think what I get to understand from you as well as a lot of senior leaders that I speak to who have achieved that success is they get their hands dirty even today.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
They're choosy about the deals where they want to speak up, but they get their hands dirty even today. And the skill which is not used is, I mean, it's gone, right? Like we say, the muscle that you don't use, you lose.
Like they say, right? बंदर कितना भी बूढ़ा हो जाए गुलाटी मारना नहीं छोड़ता.
नहीं छोड़ना चाहिए भी उसको.
Exactly.
Fantastic. So I saw a couple of posts of yours on LinkedIn, Dara, where you were representing your organization at various events and you were on the stage. Well, I understand that tailgating and putting up a booth, speaking up there is extremely important. Now, for a sales professional, how important is developing public speaking skills?
See, again, it is important at all levels, but practically, if you're on the stage, I always believe that the senior most person in the organization should be on the stage. Because at any given point of time, if you go to an event, there are four speakers speaking at the same time, and the audience is only 1,800, 600, whatever, and they get to choose which one they want to go with. And I've always seen the person, they just go with the designation. Very honestly, if there's a C level there, I see a lot of crowd there compared to someone, because if they go for somewhere A or someone say they're thinking this guy is only going to show me the product demo, right? That I can any which ways learn over a call or so on.
Correct.
But someone at a VP level or someone at a higher level is definitely not going to talk about the product. He's going to talk about the pain point.
Correct.
You are here to understand the pain point. What is the pain point? And maybe touch base a little bit about how can your organization help undergo that pain point. No one is there to look at your demo. Your demos could be done offline, virtually, whatsoever. It is about that how much you understand about the industry, how much you understand about their pain point, and maybe give them a glimpse about how do you do it. Leave them with their curiosity so that they come and meet you at the booth later on, or maybe connect with you once they go back to their office.
Got it. Got it. Fantastic. Fantastic, Dara. Dara, so when the competitor is obsessed with speed, because today, or rather in sales, we say speed is extremely important, that the pace at which you send out those proposals, the follow-ups and all of that is extremely important versus the strategy. In an international context, which one wins?
Mixture of both, very honestly, Sharat, a mixture of both. Right, I know when a customer asks for a quote from us against a competitor that is there in the market in Europe, they always feel that our quotes go out much more faster. We respond to them very fast, and we always capitalize onto that, stating, you know what, if our pre-sales is so good, our post-sales is even going to be better than that. So that is one catchy point. Second thing is, of course, you do it with strategy, right? Like you put across a mail in such a way that they're open-ended questions. You don't close the conversations, right? We do so many other things that opens up the conversation. It's more strategic.
Got it.
Just speed without strategy is like a headless chicken. You're banging in everywhere,
Got it.
right? So I think a mixture of both. No, you're not going to win a race by sending the mail first.
Correct. And you, like you said, all of this, when we do it, it is also personalized now.
100%.
Because, we are talking about their pain points. We are talking about how we can help them and then putting a price to it. I think that makes a lot of sense for them than
Absolutely.
anything else. So speed plus strategy is extremely important.
Another thing I see mostly it happens is we throw away discounts.
Mhm.
I've seen people just throw away discounts, right? I think you are doing more harm to your product than anything else. If a customer is coming with a competitor code, do an apple to apple analysis to understand why the 30-40% cheaper and why are you 30-40% expensive. Put across that analysis, send it across, because if you're going to give 30-40% discount straight up, this is going to tell you two things. The customer is going to think that the prices that you gave you earlier were wrong,
Mhm.
right? Which means that like no one is going to give you X price and reduce it by 40% the next day. So he's losing that trust in you. Second, you're degrading your own product,
Got it. Got it.
right? A
100%.
Mercedes Benz could only come in X lakhs, right? It can't come to a 10 or a 12 lakhs.
100% with you on that, Dara. Dara, so I love the entire segment, right? We spoke about a lot of interesting things, but now I want to go into my favorite segment, which is called rapid fire. So I'm going to throw some questions at you, and I want you to give me like rapid fire responses,
Works.
right? So let's begin. I have a few of them, and I'm sure they are going to be interesting. Cold email, cold call, or LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
Okay, US market versus Europe market.
If there are two ways of looking at it. If you ask me personally, Europe market.
All right. One tip for new sales leaders.
Invest in your own development.
One tool for international sales. A non negotiable tool for international sales.
Patience.
This is going to be controversial, I guess. Men team versus women team. Men sales professionals in your team versus women sales professionals in your team.
A mixture of both, very honestly, because I've worked with some amazing women leaders and also AEs, right? Amazing. And I've worked with some great guys also. I could give an example, Sharat, where once upon a time that I had a team which was all girls. There were 10 girls under me, and we were the best team of the quarter for almost 2-3 quarters back to back. And I think women are great sales people. I would say that. But yeah, I would say a mixture of both. I don't want to be biased towards one gender, but I would not ever say that only men or so on. I think it's a mixture of both.
In my team, there are more women. And I think that in Indian context, a lot of times women sales professionals at least get those first meetings, right? So the SDR roles, I would prefer a woman sales. Again, I'm not being biased, but what's your view on that one, right? Would you prefer somebody coming from a so entry level, right? Like banks also a lot of times, you have women sales executives at a entry level, but then we go up the ladder, there is a lot of gap that is there.
Yeah.
Explain me a little bit about your experience out there.
I think the reason being that being Sharad is the experience and the age. When you look at an SDR, the experience is like 2-3 years. The age is around early 20s. But when you climb up the ladder, it becomes late 40s, early 40s, and so on. Now, you do know that for us it is work. For women, there are a lot of baggages that they carry, kids, school, so on, right? And practically, when you move up the ladder, it's the sad reality that you need to give X number of hours. And the women carry a lot of more baggage than male. Let's be very, very practical about it. I've seen so many women kind of giving up amazing jobs after a good stint just because they got married or they have a baby or so on, right? I know that that's the harsh or the sad reality, but for sure, right? I've also seen ladies who've come back and bounced back very, very strong. And they are leading some very, very good teams, big teams. But yeah, the sad thing is when you walk into a C-level meeting today, you would find like 8 out of 10 people being men there.
Got it. Got it. So, Dara, any viewer who's on a career break and now they want to get onto their, they want to explore career opportunities and they are pro sales and they have built their entire career in sales but taken a career break, what would be your advice to them?
Sharpen your skills. That's about it. Right? Sharpen your skills. Understand which market you want to go after, which organization do you want to go after. Start networking. As a recruiter, there are thousands of resumes that come and hit your inbox every day. Start, how could you be different? right? When I take interviews, I don't look at a career break. Absolutely. Of course, you do ask the question, but that should not be a deciding factor.
Got it.
But it's all about how did that person come and project himself or herself? What did he or she do, or so on?
Got it.
Don't judge a person just because he or she has taken a break.
Got it. Got it. Fantastic. Let's move on to the rapid fire, right? Individual contributor but versus being a manager.
I would say being a manager because I've been the longest in there, being a manager. But of course, always being that the monkey that I said, jo gulati mana nahi chhodta.
Got it. Got it. Fantastic. Follow up an old customer or chase a new one.
Chase a new one.
Okay. And why would you say that?
Because follow up on the old customer, which would mean that maybe he's put that on the back burner, he's not more interested or so on. So rather than that, I invest more time on catching a new fish or going after a new prospect or so on.
Right. Just extending a little bit on that one. We say follow, fortune is in the follow up, right?
Yeah.
So when is the time where I say, hey, I'm not going to follow up with this customer prospect anymore? What's the count like?
Very important, right? Most of the times people just keep sending follow-up mails, follow-up mails, follow-up mails. You don't even know if it's going in the spam or not. Or you don't even know. I've seen people following up and then I go and tell them, look at the LinkedIn that Paga has already left the company and joined another company also. So it's important to do your homework before you do your follow-ups also.
Correct.
And then why do you want to waste your time over dead wood? If there's nothing going to happen, I would always put my energy, my time into something which is more productive. And maybe I will still send him a mail. I'm not saying, but my rigor will go down. If I was sending him mail every week, that would come to every fortnight and that would come down to every month. Unless or until the client proactively is telling me, not interested, Dara, let's look into it in the future. Till that time, I will do a follow-up, but my rigor will start going down.
So Dara, I want to go back to the last segment of the podcast, and I've had like some aha moments for sure. Let's kind of put everything together. You gave some deep insights on a couple of things on how do we do the outbound. You shared some personal insights as well from your journey. So one of the things that you said is to step back, to step forward, right? When do I know that I need to step back?
When it doesn't excite you, right? At least for me, if it doesn't excite me, then it's not giving me that kick, right? So that's where I will take a step back, understand, hey, this is giving me a kick or not. And very importantly, it's about the company, the product, the manager. Very important, the manager, right? I always keep saying that how you work in a company, how much inputs do you give to that company, how well you work with a company, it's directly correlated to the person that you're rolling into, him or her. Because you spend most time of your day with him rather than your loved ones also.
Got it.
So you definitely need a very, very a manager who understands you. I'm not saying a manager who always shields you. No, a manager could absolutely be use the carrot method and sometimes the stick method also for sure.
Got it.
But sometimes, but someone whom you can rely on, someone who you can say, "Acha, this person is there who's going to help me out."
Got it. It's very interesting, Dara. I've like so far every podcast that I did, almost every guest highlighted the importance of a good manager. And I think it is a non-negotiable thing for anybody to succeed, irrespective of the, I think, careers choices that we have, whether we are in sales or in other professions. Managers make or break our careers.
True.
Right. Brilliant. So again, few more questions to wind up the entire conversation, Dara. Now you've been there, you have done some significant work. What does it take for somebody to become or be in the top 1% international sales professional?
Very important to understand the segment or the market that you're playing in. When I say market, not the country. If you are into selling into fintech, then you understand that fintech world very well. You understand what's happening in the fintech world, what's going to happen in the future in the fintech world, so that you are able to speak their language when you get on the calls with them or you get on a conversation with them. So it's important to be on top of the game.
Got it.
Very important to be international sales, be on top of the game, understand what's happening there.
Right. So industry knowledge is extremely important in addition to all the other things that we are actually doing, right?
Right.
So last question from my end, Dara, is let's say somebody comes to you and says, Dara, you've been there, you've done that. Give me a roadmap with 3 simple steps to get started in sales?
Get started in sales. First, you got to understand whether you are okay to get bogged down every day, get that rejection hit you every day, and still get up with a smile the next day.
Hmm?
I think that's very important. Most of the people don't do it. I've seen so many people work for a few months and then say sales is not my cup of tea,
Got
or I can't work in this pressure environment.
it.
Right? Nothing comes for free. When you write your own paycheck, as I said, it comes with certain ifs and buts with it. So someone who's able to work persistently, don't get bogged down, keep pushing, keep try out things differently. As I said 2 years back, if XYZ was working, today that thing is not going to work out. So try out different things, think out of the box, listen to a lot of people who have done sales, understand how have they done differently or so on. Third last important thing is be network well, and then make sure that you understand that market very well, you understand that vertical really really well, you become like the guru in that vertical.
Interesting.
Right, you need to know that vertical very well. If you don't know that vertical very well, you're not going to work, because it changes, right? From someone who's selling ABC to someone selling DF, the complete thing is going to change. The ecosystem is going to change. How you pitch is going to change. The personas that you're going to go after is going to change. So you got to make sure that you understand that industry really, really well. That's the reason if you look at all top roles that are open in the market, they would say, if it's a fintech, they would say most of the time they would need a guy from the fintech only to come and take over that role.
Correct. Get that.
So it's important that you kind of understand that industry really, really well.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dara. Dara, final thoughts from your end for our viewers?
I think sales is amazing. It's great. I've been into sales for 21 years, and I'm sure if I can do it from a hotel management to the SaaS leadership, I'm sure you can do it too. So never underestimate yourself. Just go with it. The first time is always that hesitancy, but let's do that first time, and you will make sure that you're able to fly.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dara, for being on our podcast. Looking forward to another conversation.
Thank you so much, Sharat. Have a fantastic day.